Give me just a minute. Popping out the chat. And kaboom. Hello. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. Now, as you can see, Team Spidey, and did you have to knock over or have to plow through the trash can on your way up here? This is what happens when you raise your cats right. Yeah. Anyway, you're probably watching this after the fact on YouTube because, well, no one's in chat yet. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And any cubic photons are awesome for making miniatures with. I have not tried the Photon S, so I cannot give an opinion on it. You may or may not notice that when I hold the cat, I don't hold the cat. I make kind of like a shelf for them to rest on. That way, they feel like they could jump down at any time, and they choose not to. Isn't that right, little buddy? Yes. Yeah, this is what happens when you raise your cats right. Now, tonight's sculpt, I gotta put you down, little furball. Tonight's sculpt is going to be a bugbear. The reason is, well, my gaming group is getting ready to start Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And of the miniatures I have, the only ones that appear on that level that I haven't done are the Flesh Golem and the Bugbear. Well, there's plenty of bugbears down there, but I haven't sculpted bugbears yet. And it's more likely that tomorrow night we'll encounter the bugbears than it is that we'll encounter the Flesh Golem. So, tonight is a buggy bear. The thing is, bugbears have changed in appearance over the past 5 editions. In first edition, they basically looked like a big poof ball with arms and legs and a tusked grinning face. Arr. In third edition, they kind of looked bear, well, kind of like a human that was a quarter of the way towards bear and fur. And now they're a bit, more lean and. But at the same time, they've always been described as being related to goblins. Having no features in common, they're related to goblins. Really? So, tonight, I'm getting Buggy and making a bugbear. Now, I don't have my monster manuals out in the car, so I'm gonna pull up the info on my tablet. Yay. You're a wizard, Harry. We're going to the right and aha, ba-ding. Now that's page 33. Oh. And that should be it. Yeah, here we go. You can see the bugbear there. I'm going to be doing something similar to that. Oh, a little bit more. No! What a surprise, huh? Carlton, get down and go. Go. Good boy. Okay, so. According to this, I need to give them not only the morning star shown in the picture, but also some javelins. That's going to be something I'm going to need to work on. They're size medium, but they're much taller than the average. They're closer, kind of like how officially a Goliath is size medium, but they may as well be size large because they're almost big enough. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start with, we're going to take the basic humanoid figure that I've got. Anyway, and we're going to play with its proportions to get the proportions of, how the bugbear looked in that picture or how it's been looking. One of the things we're going to do. Oh no, don't tell me. There we go. Change that smooth torso to 0%, so we have this more muscular torso because we're going to need it. Now, first things first, we're going to shrink. We're going to enlarge the figure just a little. Actually, that's what we need. Not environment, content library. We need the height measure. Because we need to make sure we don't make them too big as we're doing this. Now, from the look of it, let's go ahead and expand him. And all. We need to make it a bit more ape-like. A lot of its height will come from an extended torso. I'm going to select the abdomen and the chest mostly. And we're going to Y-scale them a little bit. Where they're going to select the chest, or we're going to select the collar, shoulder, and forearms, and the chest. And we're going to X-scale them. Actually, hold on just a second. Sorry about that. Now, we can make the chest a little bit less extreme. Because we're going to make them more muscular as it is. But we need to make those shoulders and forearms longer. We need to give that more of an ape-like build. We're also going to make the legs longer, and that's with Y scale. Because they seem to have some kind of stretchy, not stretchy, but lanky limbs. Okay, this makes them well over 6 foot, but not quite as the 7.5 to 8 foot that they appear to be. So we're just going to do a full-on scale here. And that's about 7.5 feet. Now, we can go ahead and delete this. This is the proportions we're going to sculpt on, except we are going to make the figure a lot more muscular. So we go to here, we can go to that. Let's make him a little bit muscular that way. We're also going to a little bit more like that. There. That is how our hulking bugbears are going to start. We're going to start from this build. Now, one thing that we need to do before we do anything else, I'm going to export this. Okay, we go back to our broadcast miniatures, new folder, bugbear, and this is raw shape. And what I need to do, no, the proportion is going to be a bit more human-like than the daemon. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make in 3D Studio Max, a back quiver with a couple javelins in it. So, meshes, pre-sculpt, broadcast, new, bugbear. And yes, I don't know if you've noticed, but there is an add-on you can get or an app you can get for Windows that will make thumbnails of STL files. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay, we import. We go here and let's change shaded to object color. And let's change its color to a redder brown. Okay. Now, his right arm is going to be holding the Morning Star. So we're going to put the javelins at an angle like this, so he can reach out with his left hand to throw them. So the first thing we're going to do is we make our javelin. We go over here to cylinder. Make sure to have 2 cap segments, drop the sides to 8, and height segments to 1. Now I want to make sure these are thick enough that they'll print easy, so a 1 millimeter radius. So that means a 2 millimeter thick javelin. Yes, that sounds unusually thick, but we have the issue of, for those who are using FDM printing, they need that. Now we're going to shrink. And then we're going to select this and loop it. Actually, let's go ahead and select all of this and hit Z to zoom in and smooth of 1 smoothing group so it's all smoothed. That way we can see the results of when we do this. Chamfer 0.01. Okay. And then the bottom, what we're going to do We're going to select here, shrink. We're going to pull it down just a little because we want this to look like it's been shaved near the bottom. Oops. Yes. Now, the last thing to do to make sure that we keep our portions to 90%. More than 90, not 60. There we go, that's good. Now we hit Mesh Smooth. Collapse all. And this is our javelin. Doesn't really look like much because, well, it's not a real javelin. It doesn't need to look like it's going to be a real javelin because it's going to be in a batch of 3. And they're actually going to be ever so infinitesimally overlapping. This will make it easier when it comes time to print because after we fuse this in ZBrush, what will happen is this will become one solid object. Okay. Now, we need to make the part that's going to go over it. That's a little bit large. Yeah. I'll go ahead and select this one, and we're going to attach the other two. Now it's one item. We're also going to change the color to make it a bit easier to deal with. We're going to make it slightly purpley. Okay. Now we need to shrink these a little. We're going to shrink them overall so that they won't have any weird proportions, and reset transform. Now we need to make the quiver. The strap for the quiver we're going to make separately. We make the quiver by making just simply a box. Slightly larger than where they are, and to about there. And then we're going to make it not quite half. And then we're going to move these to here. We also need to make sure that the X is the same. The X here is 27.548. This is 27.527. So 27.527. You may or may not have been able to see that nudge over a few pixels. Alright, now we are going to make the width, the length, which is the longest dimension, which is the vertical one. We're going to give it 1, 2, 4 segments. And the way we're going to do that, these segments are going to be up near the top, about there, and this is going to stay right about where it is. Yeah, that's good. Now, we're going to select these 2 and these 2 quads, and then we're going to deselect the ones facing away from the javelins. And then we're going to extrude them out. Okay. Now, we don't want to make this really, really sharp. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start selecting edges, and we're going to connect them. And then moving them up. Like, it's going to be kind of sharp up top here, but that's about it. We're going to select here, connect, move it really close, and here, and move it really close. We're then going to select here, and we're going to change it up a bit. We're going to select 2 and bring them to there. And then finally down here, connect to, that's good enough. And make it a little bit wider. The end result is this should end up rounding off, and we can add in details to give it seam to make it look like it was made out of rawhide with a wood backing. So we hit mesh smooth and let's see what happens. Okay, no, that's a problem. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select here, connect, and this one goes up to here. Now, there we go. That looks much better. It looks more like what we were trying to get. It looks more like leather wrapped around a base wooden frame. And we're going to collapse it all and attach the javelins. And that is our javelins. We're going to now rotate them. Let's make them about like that. And move them here. And then rotate them a little bit more, because yeah, we need to. Now, that's a bit too far. Well, no, we don't want to move that. We want to move this. And there. That is where the javelins will be. So now we have that selected. File, export selected, and then we got to go to meshes, free sculpt, broadcast miniatures, new bugbear. Save it out as an OBJ file, and that'll simply be javbase export. Done. Then we can delete that. We'll come back to it in a minute. Now we go back to DAZ Studio. We're going to File, Import. Oh dear, no, we're going to worry about the bases in a minute. But we got to go to Broadcast Miniatures, New, Bugbear, JavBase. Has nothing to do with Java. This is javelins, and we're going to parent them to the chest, because that's the part of the body that's going to... Okay. Now, real quick. It is 8:19, so it didn't take as long as I thought. We need to give him his Morning Star. And that's going to go in his right hand, like I said. Now, we also need to kind of move it, because where it loaded in isn't, it needs to kind of come up this way a bit. Okay. We're also going to pull it out to here. Now, for the base, we need to try and keep the base the normal size. We can't afford to make it a little bit larger than before. So we go back to bases. This is going to be in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is mostly worked stone, so we'll probably be best off with the cobblestone base. Okay, and just for the sake of posing, we're going to slide it down just there. And we're going to hide it. And we're going to need to try to make his feet relatively close together. So let's see what poses I have that would work. Let's try this one. Control Okay, that'll be a good bugbear pose. Let's go ahead and we're gonna add in another right hand weapon just to so we can close that hand. Okay. Let's side to side that hand a little bit. Just a little. Make the base visible. And center it a little bit on him. Then we're just going to kind of drag that foot back a little and this foot forward a little. Well, actually, let me make sure that I've got side to side locked. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go to the front view just so we can get these feet properly set. And then we're going to raise the base up just a bit. And bring it forward just a bit. Okay. And there we have what's going to be our bugbear. Actually, let's select that waist. One thing about the drawing that they had for the bugbear is that its waist and hip were both rather unusually narrow. So the X scale is going to come down a little. And the Z scale is going to come down a little. Also, the chest alone is going to come down in the Y scale. But the abdomen is going to come up in the Y scale. It looks like we may have also lost all of our scaling with that. Yeah, we did. Alright, so guess what happens, kiddos? We're going to load back in from the main thing, our height measure. Yeah, so we're going to take our forearm and shoulders and X scale them a bit. Our thigh and shin. Oh, come on, don't do this. And Y scale them a bit. And then we hit Control D to drop them to get our proportions back to what we originally had planned. Okay. There we go. Now, let's delete the, that's 5, 6, 7, not quite 8 feet tall. 7 and something. This is about the size of a typical basketball player. We're going to hide the base. We're going to hide the javelins. We're going to hide the Morning Star. File. Export. Buggy bod. Accept. File. Export. Buggy M star. Accept. Alright, one thing we need to do real quick. Buggy Jav. And Buggy Base. Port. Buggy Base. Accept. And then off we go. ZBrush. Although I need to tweak it because I forgot to set the window size when I started it up. There we go. Okay. Import meshes, broadcast miniatures, new bugbear, buggy bod, as opposed to buckyballs, which are a carbon molecule, a form of fullerene, Buckminster fullerene. That's why they're called buckyballs. They have nothing to do with the Winter Soldier. Okay. Append. Oh, by the way, no spoilers, please. Next thing is going to be the javelins. Then we're going to append. And this is going to be the Morning Star. And append. And this is going to be the base. Alright, one thing we're going to do is we're going to move the base a little, because it did come up there. Now, we are going back to draw. We're going to make sure the buggy bod is selected, and we're going to hide everything else. And then before I continue, I'm going to get some soda. The first thing we're going to do, before we even start the resolution process, we're going to fix that underarm area here and shoulder, the similar one over here, and we're going to turn the head into a bugbear head. Yay! Isn't that great? Hey, Mark! Okay, and let's make sure, let's go down here, lazy mouse off, Z sub, shrink that down, and now we're going to smooth out, smooth here, and here, and definitely here. And then we're going to kind of push in here. And then here. Then we're going to go back to add. We're also going to smooth that out. And come make this thicker so that it comes back into the back and come up this way. No spoilers for any fandom, please, by the way. I realize that's pretty much common sense, and I don't have problems with common sense with you crew. But you never know, someone might decide to post something in the comments to not a regular viewer. Okay, now we're gonna need the tablet for working on the head. After we take care of one thing on the head that we can deal with the regular mouse, and that is shrink that down 100% intensity, and let's shrink the inner mouth. This is to make it easier to print, especially for people with FDM printers. Okay, now I'm not going to be showing y'all, but I'm going to be having the picture over here. Okay, so from what I can tell, bugbears tend to have beadier eyes than goblins. We're going to switch to move for most of this. I'm going to kind of bring them in this way. Their cheekbones and skulls tend to come out a lot wider than humans or goblins. Alright. Also going to have a bit of a smooth here. Now, the nose, going to shrink the mouse a bit, actually needs to come kind of flat to the head a little bit like that. And then it's going to come up on each side. Either like that. The ears are going to come out a lot. Okay. Okay, we're going to deal with the detailing of that later. Now we need to make the brows. We're going to use that with inflate. Going to enlarge those brows. And then we're going to make the mouse a bit bigger and enlarge that entire area of the forehead. And back to move. Shinju, over here. Now, go. Go to your bed. Good girl. Sometimes it takes 2 snaps to get him to do what you want. Alright, we're going to pull this down to represent, angry brow. And then up on this side to really emphasize the angle of that brow. And then we're going to kind of bring it from the center out. Now, they also appear to have slightly squarer jaw up front than humans and goblins do. Now, I'm going to make the selection mouse a little bit larger, and we're going to drag that face. Well, do it from where we can't be clicking on the arm by accident. We're just going to pull it out a bit like that. Then we're going to grab the sides and move them back. Make the mouth wider and a bit more savage. We'll give it fangs as one of the last things we do. Okay, for the most part, we can now go ahead. Actually, let's Yeah. Gonna give it just a little bit of thinning. Alright. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna have a little bit of thinning on the thighs. Just a little bit. We're also going to do a little bit of inflating on the butt just to kind of fuse this together. He'll be wearing, crude pants, pantalones, but, we want to preset the seam while we can. Okay, there we go. Now, next step is to go down to geometry. We're going to subdivide it a few times. And Dynamesh him at 768. Dynamesh. And while we're doing this, shrink the mouse a little. And let's smooth out those two little divots in the mouth. Yeah, there we go. Okay, frame out. The next thing that we're going to be doing is going to be involving that. Basically, we're going to make the strap for that. And so the strap, okay, that's not enough. A little bit wider than what we had before. There we go. That's better. And now we're going to extract it at a 0.03. I'll explain why in a minute. Accept. Draw. And then draw to get rid of that. Now what we're going to do is going to geometry, we're going to Dynamesh it at 256. And zoom in on the chest and smooth it out. It'll be affected by the change in topology there, but it won't be perfectly following. And then we're going to subdivide it a couple times. Delete lower. Now we're going to go back here while I'm thinking about it. And we're going to smooth out the butt crack. Okay, now we need to make him crude pants. Yay, crude pants. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to get some soda real quick once again. Yeah, I know. It's dry and dusty work telling stories like this one. We're going to use the mouse. What a shock. Oh. To draw on the masking for where the pants are going to be. We're gonna shrink it down to down the bottom here. We're not gonna make it go all the way because we're gonna give it a more erratic bottom edge. Now, I'm going to load in an alpha, and that's going to be let's try this one. Okay, there we go. Giving this kind of a more erratic look to it. Basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it look almost torn. Okay, that's good enough. Now we're going to extract that out. I'm also going to turn off my tablet because I don't want to waste all the charge and just sitting here doing nothing. We're going to extract out at 0.02. Accept. Draw. Actually, no, that's too thick. Drop that out. Delete. Okay. We're going to change that to 0.015. I forgot I had increased the size of this. Extract. Accept. That looks much better. And here. And then what we're going to do, we're going down here to the knot. Actually, no, we need to go to the rope first. Rope brush. Hiding him so we have an easier time of getting to this. Shrink. And then we're going to start from here. Too big. And there. Now, we're going to go ahead. This is going to be split unmasked parts. And I'm going to click down here to get rid of the loop. Then we're going to the knot. And we're going to draw on that knot until it's about the... Oh, heck. I forgot I need to change the depth. And then until it's about the same diameter That looks about the same. Yep. And once again, split unmasked parts. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the move tool. And we're going to kind of pull it up just kind of erratically, not quite fully. Just enough to make it look like it's kind of coming out from under the belt. Okay. Frame out. Yeah, that's pretty good pants. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give him a pauldron and bracer on his right arm only. And then we're going to give him boots. Once we've done that, it'll be time to tweak the hands and start adding on patches of nasty, nasty fur. Okay. Got the alpha for that, and then I'm going to make a big circle on the front and back of these pauldrons. It's going to come to there. And then a big circle here. Let's bring this down here. And this is coming. Let's erase that because we want it to be even. We'll manipulate the actual final results. Okay, now we're going to extract this at 0.03 also. Or 0.025. Extract, accept, draw, draw. And with the move, we're going to make this a bit larger. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab right here and pull up and back and meet the neck. Okay, we're going to shrink it back down and smooth this right here. Okay, we only want to smooth that. Okay, frame out. Now we got to polygroup it. Auto groups, bing. That's so that it's one solid group. And that means that now we can go up here to curve functions, frame mesh, and use this curve tube. Make it a little bit bigger. Make it about the same size as that. And add on trim to our breastplate, to our pauldron. There we go. So let's go ahead. Split unmasked parts. And zoom in closer so we can turn off the curves. There we go. Now this we're going to subdivide a couple times to get it nice and smooth. That should be good enough. And this we're now going to dynamesh this at 512. Dynamesh, and then turn off, and then subdivide until it's got enough to work with for carving stuff in. Okay. And now a bracer. Now we need to go like that, because we need a nice little diagonal at the bottom end. Oh, yeah, it would help if I had that one, yeah. And then go there. Yeah, bracer. This is also going to extract at the same amount that the cauldron did. And then we go down to polygroups, auto group to make it one group, and then let's frame mesh. Okay, good. Zoom in. Gonna put one down here. And split unmasked parts. And then one here. And split unmasked parts. And then click there to get rid of the curves. Now, let's go ahead and merge down with these two. And let's subdivide the geometry a little. And then we're going to skip that and merge down again. We're also going to go ahead and merge the knot into the belt. And we need to give it a level of subdivision here. Okay. Now the only thing left to do for actual clothing pieces is to give them boots. Then we're going to start making the fur. And it is 8:55, so... No, Mark, I'm making a bugbear. You know I don't do copyrighted characters, especially ones from a show I don't like. Yes, shock of shocks, I don't like Dragon Ball Z. These are going to be once again, it helps if I actually have him selected there. These are going to be floppy top boots. Frame out. Now we're going to extract, accept, frame, and we're going to Dynamesh at 128. No, not 120, 256. Yeah. You'll notice I tend to do powers of 2 there. Now we're going to make the mouse a lot bigger, and we're going to just very carefully, just gently do a little bit of smoothing across the top of them. This is to kind of make it look like it's coming out and folding over. And then here. Okay, then we're going to move. We're going to use move to pull these out a little bit from the bottom so that they hang a bit better. It'll also help us get some shape to them. Let's go up from the bottom here. It'd be easier to see and kind of pull out. And there we go. Yeah, that looks a lot better. And then we select Dude himself. And it's time to start working on his fur and hair. Now the thing is, where I'm going to give him fur and hair. Oh, let's also make the that visible. Where I'm going to give him fur and hair is going to be mostly on top of the head, the Wolverine sideburns area with a little bit coming down the chin, down the sides of the chin, the shoulders, the forearms, and the calves. Because we want it to be more stylized hair and fur than anything else. So we're going to start by marking off where this fur is going to be coming from. So, soda. Excuse me. We're going to do this the way we do hair, but just like a bit shaggier. So we're going to come down the center. And there we go. Now, I'm going to shrink the mouse so I can do this properly. I'm going to come sharp in front of the ear. Follow along here. There. And bring that up here and here. And that's where the head hair is going to be. Let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and do the head hair at first. Then we'll do the rest. Why'd I do that? I need to come down here, extract it at 0.015. Accept. Draw. Right now it looks like a helmet. We don't need that to be a helmet. We need that to be hair. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to Dynamax it super low. And then we're going to make the mouse a bit bigger. And with a much lower intensity, we're going to smooth out the areas closest to the front and top of the head, because it's all going to be going back. Then we're going to subdivide it quite a few times. And we're going to the clay buildup tool with alpha on, and we're going to shrink it. We're also going to turn off lazy mouse. There we go. And we're also going to turn on backface masking. Okay, now let's hide the rest of the bracers and the rest of the body and the pauldron. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this just Okay, and then we're going to start drawing on like shaggy locks. After we got the basic shape of these locks, now that we got the sides down, we can. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to use the move tool. I'm going to kind of grab the bottom corner of these and too big. Grab the bottom corner of these and pull them out. And now we're going back to play build up. And now we're going to actually make this a little bit bigger and start and just kind of draw on some shaggy areas, just random locks. Okay, now we're going to dynamesh it once more, but at a much higher resolution. And now we're going to slash. And I don't mean the guitarist. Turn off laser mouse, drop this back down to about 14. And we're going to just basically draw in our slashes between these. And we're making the hair. There we go. There's going to be quite a bit of hair on this guy because he is supposed to be vaguely furry. Which makes it interesting that a goblin type evolved fur and yet is not in an Arctic environment. I guess the question is, was it parallel evolution of a divergent, or rather I should say divergent evolution of different subspecies that just happened to create just a random mutation that gave this goblin subspecies hair? Or was it more along the lines of uh, this is the proto goblin, and later subspecies lost the hair because it wasn't needed on the small variants? Was it a case like Eohippus, which is where you had a small animal that evolved into the rather large horse? You know, Eohippus was the size of a fox. Or was it a more of a situation of uh, the larger variant degenerated into the smaller? Or are they just simply both descended from a common ancestor? What am I doing trying to give evolutionary science to fantasy monsters? Eh. Okay, come on down this way. Yeah, you can see that's a pretty shaggy mane. We're gonna be giving it some shape here in just a little bit after we get the locks drawn in and generated and prepared. I think my mother's watching a show about Charles Manson. Okay, that's the basic locks dug in. I still need to give their edges, their surface edges. So we're not gonna do all of them. We're only gonna do the ones that are most prominent. I'm gonna make it a little bit larger. We're also gonna do the cheek ones distinctly, because it'll help us give that shape and emphasize it. And then we're gonna kind of just bring it down the middle of some of these other ones, just to keep them in their shape. Now, this one's large enough to take it a little bit here, a little bit here, here. This one kind of needs it because of the diverging shape. And then down here, here, here. Once again, we have another divergent shape here. We have a splitting lock. And then coming down this side, and here, and here. Okay. Now, while I'm thinking about it, we're going to go ahead, we're going to use the snake hook tool. And we're going to basically pull down fangs. We're going to pull up tusks. Okay. We have our tusks. We're probably going to end up moving and thickening them and redefining them, but we have the basic shape there. We don't need to add the shoulder and forearm fur to the right arm because it's covered by the pauldron and the bracer. But we're also not going to do it the way we did the head hair. We're going to go to clay buildup. We're going to increase the size to 35. And we're just going to kind of draw a few hairs coming off the shoulder. We're going to do the same coming the opposite direction. Okay. And then instead of doing what we did with hair normally, we're going to grab the snake hook tool again. And we're going to grab the tips of these hairs and pull them a little. Just a little bit bigger. Okay. Just the ends of the hairs. Just a little bit off the surface of the skin. Okay. All this is doing is just little tufts of fur. I guess you could also use this figure as a medieval version of Sabretooth, if you really wanted to. But this is not obviously not Sabretooth because, of course, this is a fantasy monster, not a Marvel character. Okay, frame out. And make the armor parts visible. Okay. I guess the next thing is to go ahead and start adding in wrinkles to our to our pants. Also, let's smooth out that area. And we go to clay buildup, make it a little bit larger, a little bit weaker. And here we're just going to draw in some and then we're going back to slash. And okay, I think next thing is let's do something on that pauldron. Nothing very big or major, just something there. Let's go to our clay buildup tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it smaller and more intense. And we're just going to kind of like make a decoration swirly thing. And then next thing is I'm going to layer sub, change the alpha to alpha 48, make it a lot smaller and a bit more intense. Oh, I need drag dot. Okay, not enough. I'm just gonna use this to kind of make a beaten look to the rest of it. We're gonna make a couple bigger hammered areas not a lot of them. And then after we do this, we're going to be giving it a nice smooth to it. The end result will be that an FDM print of this will have this nice irregular surface to it, but a resin print will capture the reason why it's irregular. We're going to come back to that in a second. So both will at least have a nice stylized look to this part of the armor. Well, now we're going to make the mouse a little bit bigger and smooth this area. Give it a, once again, like I said, more of a rocky, hard-beaten look to it. Okay. Frame out. Now let's make that morning star visible. Okay, the morning star, we now are going to give it a few subdivisions. One more. Because we're going to go ahead and give the morning star a more wooden styled half. And for that we go to the rake tool. There it is, rake. Subtract. We're going to turn lazy mouse on just so we can drop the lazy step pretty low. And we're turning lazy mouse off. And drop the intensity a bit. And then we just, actually it's transparency on, and then we just kind of, okay, that didn't work. I know why, because we need to dynamesh this. No, not that. It needs to be more than that. 1024. Okay, now, there we go. We forgot to do one thing. I forgot to mask off there. Now I can do this without worrying about the head. Okay. And now up here we need to give a little bit of inflation just because These areas just got weaker from that. Okay. That is our badass bugbear. At 9:30. So, we take this. We start from the very top, and we merge down. One thing we need to do real quick, let's go and subdivide the javelins. And there we go. That's what we need. Okay, and here we have our bugbear. I'm sailing on a revolution. Okay. Now, we go here to geometry, Dynamesh, and that's good. That's looking good already. Go to Z plugin, decimation master, and we're going to decimate it to 35K. If that doesn't work because of the detail in the shoulder and the hair, we're going to change it to 50K. Okay. Yep, that worked pretty good. No, it didn't. That. I'm gonna drop it to 50K. Also, I need to get a new soda. I'll be doing this. Okay. And yeah, that looks a lot better in terms of capturing the detail of the shoulder. Put that in the trash can. And there is our. Do you mind? Excuse you. Yes, you should be ashamed. You jumped up here before I was finished, didn't you? Yeah, you did. You gonna say you're sorry? Yeah, good boy. I accept your apology. Okay, now go down. No, we did not script or rehearse that. Okay, so let's go ahead and export. And no, not under alphas. This needs to be under Broadcast miniatures, new. Bugbear. Big Buggy Bear. Okay. Now let's go ahead and pop back to here. Yay! Hmm. I got a message for some. And anyway, yeah. So that was our Bugbear. That's probably what our game master is going to put down on the table to represent the bugbears in the first level of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I don't know how many there are or what's going on with them, but I think he said make sure to have at least a few, and any more than that, we can just have the meeples. I've made a lot of meeples. For those who don't know what meeples are, they're generic humanoid cutouts that have, I put numbers on their chests, go figure, that represent, okay, I need 10 generic medium-sized figures. There. And I try not to burp. Yeah, but that's frogs filling ecologically different niches. Bugbears and goblins, the only difference in their ecological niche is bugbears are bigger and more dangerous. I mean, they're all tribal goblinoid humanoids who subsist on hunting and on bandit raiding. Whether it's a bugbear, goblin, orc, hobgoblin, go figure. I mean, even within human subspecies, assuming, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, Denisovan, Homo florensis, they had totally different regions of the world that they evolved. Neanderthal evolved in Northern Europe. The Denisovans evolved in, like, the Tibetan plateau area. The Homo florensis, the hobbits, evolved on a small island with limited resources. Cro-Magnon evolved in the rich environment of Central and Northern Africa. Bugbears and goblins are in the same region, in the same niche, at the same time, with wildly divergent, short, long-nosed, green skin, and very little body hair, tall, simian-faced, tan skin, and lots of body hair. How are they related? They have no traits in common. I would say that orcs are closer related to goblins than bugbears are. And if goblins went this way to become bugbears, they went that way to become hobgoblins. Actually, orcs are more closely related to bugbears than goblins, but that's none of them are. Oh well, it's an issue of Gygaxian importance, which means don't think too hard. Now, 20 minutes to go before I say goodnight. Let's talk a little bit about game mastering styles. What brings this up is last Wednesday, I had one of the players of the other group. Alright, for those who don't know, a few months ago, my D&D group split badly. We tried to convince our game master to step aside and let someone else take over. She refused. So out of her 11 players, 9 of us left. We stayed at that same hobby shop at the same nights, just outside the room at a different table. And we continued where we had left off with her. We kept going. She picked up a couple more people. I think she's got 6 players now. And she kept going. Now, she has 6 people. We have 8 players. We have 8. And one of her big excuses as to why everything was taking so long was, well, we've got 11 people. Well, no. Now you've got fewer people than we do. And yet, last week, one of them asked if we had found the theater yet, the Stone of Galore. If we had found the Stone of Galore and gotten to the theater yet. I was like, yeah. We did that months ago. About a month and a half ago. Oh. And then I find out that they still haven't gotten to the actual horde yet as of the end of Wednesday. Whereas the end of Wednesday had us finishing off the entirety of Dragon Horde. Or Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So, no. What was slowing us down was not having 11 players. If that was what was slowing us down, then they should have at least kept pace with us, if not gotten ahead of us. No, what was slowing us down was a game master who was dragging things. Who wasn't listening to what the players wanted to see and feel and have happen. We were not happy. She made us spend literally months basically saying, okay, I go to work in the morning. Alright, I come home. We work on the manor. I go to sleep. Okay, what do you do the next day? I go to work in the morning. I come home. I work on the manor. I go to sleep. Weeks of real time. She didn't read the what was actually happening in the adventure. Case in point, the start of chapter 2 tells you, you have just made a name for yourselves by rescuing a nobleman. Her instructions to us is, oh, you rescued the nobleman, but now the book says you have to make a name for yourself before you can have anyone approach you. No, that's not what the book says. And if you're so hip on going by the book, that's the book. Oh. And turning Dungeons and Dragons into drudge work. I don't think I've ever been in a campaign that did that before. And that was part of what drove us to split the group. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then, okay, the typical size pearl is a 100 gold piece pearl. One of our player characters is a sea elf priest of knowledge. And he would go out and go pearl diving. Because he can hold his breath unlimited. He was finding 5 and 10 gold piece pearls. 5 and 10 gold. The typical pearl that's worth 100 gold pieces is about that big. You know, it's about the size of your typical bead for a beaded bracelet. A 5 gold piece pearl would be a grain of sand. And we needed one 100 gold piece pearl for a spell that's a freaking first level spell. And it wasn't 100 gold pieces worth of pearls. It was one 100 gold piece pearl. And again, that's the default size. Yeah, time for a new GM. She wouldn't step down. We split. Hi, Carl. Carl's the new GM. Or, he finished off Dragon Heist. And then we've got someone else who's taking over for the... we're going into Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And it's been so much better. Among other things, we used to never laugh about things that happened in-game. We might laugh about something someone said in a conversation that might be tangentially related to game. We might laugh at something somebody showed everyone else on their phone, but we weren't laughing about what was happening in-game. I dare say at the past 6 weeks, if not 7 or 8, at least once during game, at least one person has broken down and like almost fallen out of their chair laughing at what happened in game because we're having so much fun. It's night and day. If your game master is not running the kind of game you want to play, if your game master is not fun to play with, you might think you have no other options. Well, there is another option. If you can't find another group to play with, and the group's too small to split like we did, take over. Start running the game yourself. And if he doesn't want to relinquish the seat, leave him behind. Either he'll come to his senses, or she will come to their senses and join you as a player, or you just never see him again, or never play with him again. Don't let someone drag down Dungeons and Dragons into drudge work. Don't let them force you to play a kind of game you don't want to play. I mean, if your whole party is there for the role playing and the interaction and the fun, and the game master wants to do nothing but 5 orcs in a 20 by 20 room, what do you do? You know, if you want to be murder hopes, just okay, I'll throw fireball in there, and we're gonna then the ranger and the rogue drop to one knee to fire off their bows right as the fighters go over their heads into the... Fine. But if that's not the game you want to play, don't let D&D become drudge work. The only reason we didn't lose 75% of the players overall was that we enjoyed playing with each other. This is a group so tight. We lost a player because she had to move back to Arkansas, and we took her out to dinner. This is a group so tight that we meet each other outside of game. That we started the Facebook group for the Wednesday night game with this bunch of players, and it's been going on. The Wednesday game has been going for almost 10 years. Yes, I did sculpt a model for everyone. I mean, the one we're losing is the one with the most fun figure to sculpt. We're losing our Pastafarian Warlock. Although she might come in for, over Skype. We might Skype her in on occasion. The problem would be, keeping the signal and all that. But by the way, the Flaming Paladin came out nicely. Let me see if I can... No, let me pull up the camera settings. Come on. Yeah, she came out nicely. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and one copy for her. Now what I did was I primed it and gave it a very faint dry brushing, and then one copy for me to paint. The dry brushing basically just pulls out some of those details for while you're painting. I gotta remember to put this in my miniature case for tomorrow. She's picking it up for me. She's actually from the Saturday game, not the Wednesday game. Mark, if I wasn't, I would feel guilty. I mean, if I peeked at the Ice Dragonborn Shaman with the tail, the male Ice Dragonborn Shaman, if that was my peak, well, on the one hand, I wouldn't mind if all of my figures were at that quality, but on the other, if I couldn't get better than that, then there's something wrong. Always strive to improve in everything you do, because if you don't, then you never know where you could be in the future. Now, I mentioned bad dungeon masters. If there is a player in your game that is causing problems, there's a player in your game that is taking over the whole plot, not letting anyone else do whatever. Or the opposite, if there's a player in your game who's Mr. Uber Dark Edgelord Loner, I sit in the back of the tavern away from everybody else and just stare. Why is he traveling with the group? If the player can't answer that question without saying, because it's the way we're supposed to do it in the game, then that character has no reason being with the group. And if the player takes over everything, if the player is always forcing themselves into other people's subplots, and I don't mean tagging along with the group, with a small group that goes, I mean like, if this person is getting information on their long-lost sister, and this guy goes, I'm gonna find out for him. Or takes over so that he's the one talking to the source of information, and is at the same time going back over here and helping this guy and doing what this guy's subplotted. Yeah, you need to take them aside and say, calm down. You need to not do this. You're not the only one playing. You are not the star of the show. You are one of an ensemble cast. Anyway, let me go ahead and poke my head over here and see what it says on the green tide. 10,014. I have made almost $900 today. There is 41 hours left to go. I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, I might make the second stretch goal. Yep. Because see, when I first last looked at it, it was at 9,700. Might make it. Might not. And what I finally decided on the trebuchet is I'm going to make the articulated model. And I'm also going to, once I've done that, I'm also going to make two poses and fuse it so there'll be all three. Articulated trebuchet, trebuchet being fired, trebuchet being loaded. And yes, there will be an elf all tied up that will fit in the cup of the trebuchet. Now, It's 9:53. So, what's going to happen next? Can anyone guess? If you see me looking in this corner, it's because from my point of view, that's where the chat is. Yes, it's going to be the whole 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thingy. First, let me go ahead and squeeze the kitty. Okay, so, as usual, I'm going to be sticking my hand up and I'm going to be counting from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I'm going to say something goofy. When I do that, I'm going to go ee. And after I see my finger going ee, then I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. Okay, so that's going to be a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. No, after the green tide is done, I will not be doing the red tide. I do not like Alabama for personal reasons. If I made them, I would have them like, helmets stuck in the mud and stuff. Good night.